Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last Savvy Seniors Living Seminar of 2020. What a year it's been. Am I right? Oh my gosh. So I'm so happy it's December. We have high hopes for 2021. And due to popular demand, we are going to continue this season of seminars again into our fourth full year next year. And look for a survey because I want to hear from you as to the seminars topics that you would be most interested in learning about. So I have one of our mini sponsors on the line right now, and I want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. And before we kind of more introductions, Martha, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quickly?
Thank you, Dana. I'm Martha Eccles with Mutual of Omaha Reverse Mortgage. We're a proud sponsor of the Senior Savvy Seniors. And I always learn a lot from Dana, but I'm here to help those people who have questions about reverse mortgages and explain how you can use it to help you buy your next home. So
awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I'm hearing a little background noise, so I'm going to ask whoever that is to, there you go. All right, so hang on here, little technical work here, and we'll see. There we go, perfect. Okay, well, welcome again. I know we have some groupies on today. So hello, groupies. I miss seeing you in person. And I also see we have many newbies on joining us today. So welcome to the series. And as many of you know, we normally meet at the Lafayette Library. We have high hopes that we'll be able to do that again sometime in 2021. But today we are going to have some wonderful panelists speak to us about what we all fear most, and that's moving from our homes. Really, the thought of moving out of a home that someone has lived in for years, sometimes decades, is often completely overwhelming. And that is why I, as a seniors real estate specialist, really spent quite a lot of time getting more educated, informed, did some studying and coaching to help people over 55, 65. Actually, I've moved many in their 90s, do this with less stress and more ease so that we're leaving them overjoyed and not overwhelmed. I should introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. I'm Dana Wilson with Keller Williams Realty East Bay, and again, seniors real estate specialist. I'm also a certified senior housing professional. And part of what I do is offer downsizing coaching. We understand that there is an additional level of logistics and complexity that comes along with selling a home that you've lived in for a long, long time. I liken it a little bit to first-time home buyers. Their eyes are as big as saucers and they're telling me, Dana, just hold our hand and tell us what to do because this is kind of scary. And I find that some people that haven't sold a home for a very long time, or maybe their last home sale was a relocation through their company and everything was handled for them. Their eyes are as big as saucers and they're saying, Dana, just guide us through this and hold our hands. So I love working with people like that. So really, we don't want fear and anxiety about the downsizing process to cause people to stay in a place or a situation that may no longer serve their best needs. So today we're going to learn from others who overcame these challenges, I suppose, and made the decision to downsize. So we've got two wonderful sellers, past sellers, Grayla Warren, who sold her home this year, Gloria Dobkin, who sold her home last year, and Lisa London, who helped her mama sell her home. So we're going to get it from the perspective of the home seller as well as an adult child of a senior, which I think is a kind of a very interesting perspective to get. So really, without further ado, we're just going to jump into this. I want to direct everyone, there is a Q&A. If you hover your mouse down along the bottom panel, there's a Q&A. You could click on that if you want to ask any questions. We're going to save our Q&A time for the last few minutes of today's call. But thank you again for joining us. And we'll send a follow-up email to everybody and be looking for the survey. One more housekeeping. If you're not receiving our monthly e-newsletter and you want to do that, just reach out to us. You can reach out to Pamela Rattery, my executive assistant, or myself, and we'll make sure that we tee you up on that. And then next year, we're going to be doing raffles every month for people that invite friends to come to the seminars. And we'll have some fun prizes for that too. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about downsizing from people that have been there and done that, and they are here to tell the tale. So we're going to maybe approach you, Grayla, first and ask you to describe where you were living before you relocated, how long you'd lived there, and then, you know, where are you currently living? So why don't we just start with that?
Okay, we lived in Walnut Creek. We owned our house for 30 years. We were very, very involved in the community. And we moved 9 months ago to Laguna Woods to be closer to our daughter and grandchildren, who are 20 minutes away. Best decision ever, but it was a lot of trepidation to get that far.
Awesome. Yes.
An
Well,
apartment too. I have to add that. We did not buy another house.
Okay. And why did you choose to do that?
Mostly because we really didn't know where we wanted to go or where we wanted to be, and thought, oh, we'll be in an apartment and that way we can make a decision. Well, once we got here, it was sort of like resort living, and we decided we did not want to take care of a house anymore. You know, George will come and change the light bulbs if we need them changed. And we're older, and so the ease of the move was handled a lot for us because of that.
Awesome. Gloria, where did you live before relocating? How long had you lived there, and where are you living now?
Well, my husband and I lived in a house in Lafayette for 46 years, which we loved. We raised our children there. However, my husband was ill for a long time, and he became disabled, moved to a board and care house, and I didn't want to live in a big house alone. I knew that he probably was not going to get better. So I decided to move to a senior community, and I chose assisted living so that my husband could join me. And we moved to Oakmont of Concord.
And you happen to
very small.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
Oh, you happen to have moved to an assisted living that has a memory care section, which I just wanted to point out, not all of them do have that. I'm sure you found that out when you were researching.
Yes, well, it took a while for me to make the decision. I guess not really that long. 2 months, I realized it would be best to move. And after I met you, it really took only a couple of months before I was able to move by myself to settle in before I moved my husband in with.
Wonderful. I love that you shared that. And Lisa, where was your mama living before you helped her to relocate? How long had she lived there? And where does she currently live?
Yeah, Mom lived in Somerset and Brentwood. It was a 55 plus community. And she and my dad bought a house about 20 years ago. Dad died a few years after they moved in, but Mom was in that house. It was a lovely house for 18 years. And then later I'll get to tell you why we ended up moving her, but she is now living in Walnut Creek at Atria Senior Living, which does also have a memory care there. And we really liked that choice because it was closer to me. I could still stay involved in her world. but it also had sort of the independent living that she was able to do at the time. And the idea was that she could age in place there.
Awesome. Awesome. So Lisa, as long as we've got you, what were some of the key factors involved in the decision to relocate, Mom? And, you know, be as specific as you can.
Sure. It was sort of a cluster of things that all happened around the same time. I noticed that she was having trouble taking care of the house. And this is a woman who was always extremely meticulous about her house. I was having to get a lot more involved in, you know, hiring repair people and exterminators, and she needed help with groceries and cooking, and so really her ability to live independently just became too challenging. So that was one aspect of it. The second was her driving became kind of dangerous, and there was a series of accidents and times she passed out, and I really wanted to take her car away from her because of these dangerous situations she was in. And then really thirdly, kind of the nail in the coffin here for us was that her health took a very steep decline. And because she was alone in the house all the time, she started, if she felt unwell, she would just call 911. And there was 1 year, in fact, that she was in the ER unnecessarily 17 times.
Wow.
And that just became, you know, her way of life. And I said, that's not the way to live, Mom. So between, you know, just not being able to take care of the house herself, she was losing her ability to drive, and then obviously being alone and being unwell was not a good combination.
Oh, okay. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. Grayla, what are some of the key factors that led you to make that decision to relocate?
Well, I said before, grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't want to leave Walnut Creek. I loved Walnut Creek, but we were driving down here every month or two for various things, kids' birthdays, volleyball tournaments. And we spent, I mean, I seriously think we should have done a lot sooner because the girls are now pretty old, not old, but big. And we missed a lot of things because, I mean, we drove down, like I said, every month. We came down last October, November, and December, and then finally said, this is crazy. You know, we really want to be near them. I kept thinking maybe we could convince them to come to Walnut Creek, but that didn't work.
Aw. Well, so anything else that was a kind of a factor in making the move?
And that was really the only thing. It
all
was
about the grandkids.
Yeah, and it was because we only have the one child. And so I know a lot of people that have 2, 3, 4 kids. And then, you know, which one do we live closer to? Because we would like to live closer to grandkids.
Right.
And our decision was pretty easy.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that Walnut Creek was hard to leave. But Orange County is really nice. We've spent a lot of time visiting beaches and doing things like that.
You've settled in quite nicely, it sounds like.
Well, I would have liked to have been here sooner, but what can I tell you?
Well, you're enjoying it now, and that's what counts.
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Dobkin, what were some of the reasons that led you to relocate? What are those 3 or 4 main reasons why you relocated?
Okay, it was basically my husband's health condition.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually handle living in independent living, but he could not. So, of course, my concerns were about moving by myself. I have no children nearby. They're all far off, and I had to handle this by myself. And my concerns were about the logistics involved, you know, getting everything in order and downsizing, and concerned about missing our house and so on. But I realized that with his condition, we had to move. I had to move. I didn't want to maintain a great big house on my own, you know, doing the gutters and all the maintenance work, which I did mostly by myself.
yeah, you had a big lot and a big home to
Big home, big lot, and the only thing I really miss at this point is the swimming pool.
It was beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I love that pool. Well, and you were also, I believe you would go and see your husband every day, which
Yes.
was
Yeah,
hard
he was
on
well,
you.
he went from the hospital to rehab, and then he went into a board and care home, and I visited him every day. Even during the moving process, I drive down to Lafayette from here and just visit him. But there wasn't that much stimulation in the board and care home, although it was a very good one. And I figured he really needed to be with me.
Yeah,
So,
well, and that made that easier for you too.
yeah, so I moved ahead of him so that I'd get all the details taken care of. The settling in was really important so that when he moved here, it was all taken care of. And frankly, I could not have done it without you. I mean, I'm a very organized person, but I didn't know the right people to go through this process, and you did. So that made my decision easier.
Well, and that's part of what we offer people is that little black book of resources that we know, like, and trust. They're local experts. They're very astute at working with me and my team, and have a heart for working with people over 65, well over 65. And again, there's some additional challenges physically, emotionally, etc. I mean, when you're 92, you can't pack up your home the way you might have when you were 42. So, things are a little different. I think, Gloria, you might have answered this next question, which was how long did you consider making the move before you actually made it? Because I know your husband had been ill for a while. Say that again?
It was about 2 months. I realized that my husband was probably not going to get any better. And, I think if he would improve and be able to move into the house and be ambulatory, that would be different. But I could see the writing on the wall. So I said, no, this is the time. We're not that young anymore, and it's time to get rid of the household chores and the responsibility of the house. And it has been great.
And you had a second level to your home as well. And I know Milt liked to be upstairs, which probably got a little challenging for everyone too.
Yes, well, that would have been impossible for Milt.
Yeah. So how long did you consider moving, Mom, Lisa?
It took about 2 years to convince her to move, because of course her big concern was she owned her house outright, so there was no mortgage. And she knew that assisted living was going to be, fairly expensive to live in. So, she just wanted to be prudent. But I'll say that the one key thing that helped me convince her is I did a spreadsheet to help her see that there's a lot of costs besides a mortgage, and that if we took all the money from selling her house and invested it, we could help offset a lot of the cost of assisted living. And so while she trusted me, it still took one more or two more events to kind of make it happen. One was one of the ER doctors finally said to her, Shirley, you're visiting us an awful lot. And we think you're doing that because you feel afraid at home.
Oh.
So, I just about kissed that doctor when he walked out of the room, because I was like, oh my goodness, I have been trying so hard to tell her that, that was one of the reasons she needed to move. So I think finally when she started hearing that and kind of seeing the stress on me and hearing the logic and the financial stability, she finally said, okay, let's do it. 2 years.
Well, 2 years, but I will say, I think it was probably easier for you than some of the other adult children I work with, because your mother, A, was proactive, even though it took a while. And I will tell you that on average, I see my clients taking, on average, more like 6 to 12 months, sometimes 18 months to think about this and to really come to that decision where, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and we've mustered up the courage and we're ready to move forward. But so she was there to kind of be part of the decision making.
Yes, I did take her to some of the places. I culled it down. So I probably saw all 10 or 12 of them that are around here, but I figured there was 2 or 3 that she would feel good about and that I would feel good about. So bringing her there helped quite a bit.
Awesome. And that she was proactive. So I know that things were happening. I mean, 17 visits to the ER is nothing to, I mean, that's amazing. And the doctors knew her by first name, which is a little.
Yes.
If they could call her Shirley, on site, there's something not going right there. Well, okay. So nothing happened, Grayla, on your end. There was nothing that happened. There was nothing specific other than you just saw time ticking by with the grandkids. They were getting older. Like, did you miss one special tournament or something that really pushed you to move forward? Or did Lou, you should say that you have a husband that didn't want to join us this morning, but was he dragging his feet? Who was more interested in doing this?
Oh, I was. But
You were.
I have to say that probably I was, for both of Lisa and Gloria's decisions. I did not want to wait until we were at that position. I wanted to move while I was still able to get around and able to go places and able to take part in the activities. I wish it had been a few years earlier because my health isn't terrific. And yet I didn't want to be burdening our daughter with what Lisa went through. And I didn't want to be burdened, either Lou or me, with what Gloria went through of making that decision when there was practically no other option.
Right. At least when you made all these decisions and choices, you did it with Lou, and Gloria, of course, her sweet husband was still alive then, but she had to make all those decisions on her own, which I think would be hard. Really hard.
One of the factors that helped us, by the way, Dana, was when you came to the house and you were the first realtor we talked to, and you laid out the proposals and everything, and you could see Lou's mind completely changing over to thinking, okay, this is somebody I felt comfortable putting the rest of my life in her hands. I'm sorry. It sounds sort of weird coming out that way, but you helped us so much. But at the very beginning, he felt that comfort. And that was a big decision for us.
Oh, well, I've done this a couple times.
Yeah. Well, I met you through these seminars, by the way.
You did? I know. I think, Gloria, you did too, didn't you? Didn't we meet through the seminars? Gloria?
Oh, yes. Well, I met you several times at your seminars, and I realized that I wasn't even going to interview any other realtor. I realized that when the time came, you had the expertise, you knew the right people, you specialized in helping seniors relocate, and I talked to you and signed up, and that was that. And I was glad I did.
Sweet. So let's talk about fears, because I think fear is a big part of why people stay put. And I have a family member who will remain nameless, who is very fearful of leaving her home. Change is not easy. The unknown is very unsettling. So there's a huge fear around leaving what is comfortable, what is familiar, and moving someplace with a lot of old people. I hear that all the time. I don't want to move where I'm going to be surrounded by old people. So what would you say as far as on your part, Lisa, and then also maybe on your mother's part, fears or concerns about the moving? Because you said 2 years, you know, it took 2 years. So there's something going on that, you know, kind of kept things from moving forward.
She was, of course, was really worried that she would outlive her money. And I was worried that the math I had done on, you know, and presented to her, that maybe it was wrong. I'm not a financial planner. So I'll put a plug in there. It probably is a good idea to talk to a financial planner. I'm pretty smart, but you know, that the money thing was mom's biggest fear. And she did also think she's with a very vivacious community in her 55 plus and moving with a bunch of old people. She didn't expressly say it, but to be honest, both of us felt that way. You could go to different communities and some of them are more aged than others. Mm-hmm. It's just a fact of when they opened and when people moved in, etc. So there's a place walking distance from my house, for example, but everybody there was clearly 20 years older than my mom. And so I chose not to put her in there. So we found one that would be closer to kind of her psychological age, even if the other age. But those were the biggest fears. And as far as outliving her money, she also had a major goal. She wanted to make sure that she passed along some of her wealth to her family. And so she thought, well, if I move into a place that costs $5,000 or $7,000 a month, you know, there will be nothing to give the family. And so that those conversations still persist with her, but good money management can prevent that problem.
I love that. And yes, I think that's a really good point that, and actually first quarter of next year, I'd love to invite back a different panel of financial and legal experts, not only to talk about what you're touching on right now, but also to talk about the propositions that passed in the last election and how that could positively or potentially negatively impact people's moves and their, you know, their taxes and such. But that's really interesting. Gloria, did you have any like fears? What was your main concern about moving? I know you talked about the concern of keeping the home up, but the actual like process of the move, going through it, living through it, what concerns you? I know you mentioned your things or getting ready to sell your home. What were those concerns?
Well, there was so much to think about. I was doing this single, you know, what's the process involved? What does one do first? What do you do next? I tend to be very organized, but this was new to me. And I knew after hearing your presentations at your seminars that you knew the people who, you know, who in order could help me out. Like first you get a placement person, then you get somebody to do the downsizing, and then you get somebody to do the renovations of your house and so on. That was my fear, which was really taken care of by the people that you know. I'm not afraid of much other than flying, but but you know, when it comes to organizing things, this is what I've always done. So, but it was still scary. And also there's the emotional wrenching from a house that you've lived in for 46 years.
Oh, how did you deal with that?
Well, I just decided I'm going to do it, and live with it. And frankly, it was a lot easier emotionally than I thought it would be, because I don't have to shop, I don't have to cook, I don't have to clean up, I don't make my own pasta anymore or my own yogurt. Everything is done for me. Problem with the plumbing, I don't have to fix it. I used to fix it myself. Guy comes in, 10 minutes, it's done. So it relieves you of all the household responsibilities. But I was really scared about, getting everything done in the right order. That was the only fear I had, and it didn't last long.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, we've got that covered. But I will say the three of you are very organized people, and many of my clients are not. So that, that does make it easier, I think, for sure. But I think what I enjoy doing is sitting down with people just like you and kind of walking through the different scenarios. If we do this, this is what would occur. Or if we follow this process, this is how that will happen. What feels and seems right for you? And that can be as far as timing, how fast, how slow. Sometimes we start working with people a year in advance. So we've committed to work together, and then we just really take our time working through step by step by step. Of course, our team has very specific list, and things have to happen in certain order. But spreadsheets, Lisa, my gosh, that's pretty darn impressive. Were there any fears, Grayla, on your end? Fears, concerns?
Well, I have to go back to what Lisa was saying was the money issue. We sat down with our financial advisor, went through everything. Yes, what we could afford, what we couldn't. And it's nice to work with another person because they're like a marriage counselor. Once we had done all that, I want to say that probably about a month ago, we met with them again because we realized that we have a lot more money than we thought we did. And could we now help grandchildren go to college, and at what rate? And so that was wonderful. But when we decided and we invited Dana to the house, and then you had all these people helping us organize, I was very organized. When the gal walked in to help me organize, she said, "Oh my gosh, you have everything under control." No, I don't. Now I have to think about what I'm going to get rid of. And then you found as the person who did the auction and got rid of some stuff that way, which was a huge, huge help. All the people we worked with from your office were great. Awesome. And that was a help. The hard thing for me was giving up my social life in Walnut Creek. All the friends, we went to a great church, St. Matthew, and had a ton of friends and were busy all the time. We came down here and we know no one. And we moved into an over 55 community, thought, oh my God, all these old people. We're going tonight to our friend's house for cocktails next door, and they are 18 and 15 years younger than we are. So, the whole thing of fear of the older folks was not there.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. What about physical challenges? Because I know, Grayla, you have some back issues. What about that? What was your biggest physical challenge, I guess, in moving?
Physically, just getting all the stuff packed. And of course, Anderson Movers sent over somebody to help with that too. And that was, that got things organized at least. Getting rid of stuff was a big job because what are we going to do with it? We haul it out. But then physically, when I got here, that I had to work on the other end. And I have scoliosis. And when I got done with everything, I realized after about 2 months that I could live with this. I dealt with it. And, I think that you have enough strength to get through what you have to get through.
Okay. Physical challenges, Lisa? Physical for not male? Well, actually, you did have an issue. So share that. You had a couple things going on at the same time with you and your mom.
Yes. Well, she had her health issues, but I had my own. I had foot surgery, and was still in a boot and using a knee scooter. And so, yeah, I had my own physical issues that I was trying to deal with. And on mom's side of the equation, it was, or I guess it's both of ours, it is emptying the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blessed with parents who had already moved like 10 times. So they had shed a lot of things and had a very neat and organized home. But it's amazing when you go into somebody's home and you just open the cabinets in the laundry room. All of those cabinets have stuff in it. You know, there's paper goods and all sorts of stuff. So emptying the home is definitely the most challenging. And then I was kind of stubborn about doing everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
Dana kept saying, you could get
Let us
some
help.
help with this.
Let us help. Let us help. Yeah.
So she did turn me on to a company that could really help, have taken a lot of the burden off of me. And I did ultimately use them. But in hindsight, I think I could have used them more.
Yeah, possibly so. Yes. You are all women of action. So in some ways you could have used some more help, but you chose not to. And I get that. I get that because it helps. I think it's part of the process of kind of trying to stay in control of a situation that's maybe feeling a little out of control, right? Because there's all this overwhelm. There's a lot of different moving parts and you're trying to kind of keep it all together mentally and physically. What about emotional? I know, Gloria, you touched on saying goodbye to a home in Lafayette you've been in for decades and decades and decades, emotional, psychological challenges, and how did you handle that? And I think you basically just said you just made the decision to move forward.
Yeah, well, once I moved in here, I recognized it was the right thing to do, and that helped. I had my cat with me. I eventually had Milt, my husband, with me, and we were here, and we also mingled with the residents a lot. I made a lot of friends here, which in this COVID era is great because there isn't that isolation that you would have living alone in a house or your own apartment. We still have some activities. And frankly, I haven't been this fit for many, many years because I have time to exercise 3 times a day. I do weights and bicycle and all that stuff. So, you know, that's very important to me to stay fit. And this is the opportunity for me to do that. So in retrospect, I really didn't miss the house as much as I thought I would.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point you just made too, that because you're basically sheltering in place, although you can come and go, but you do have that social aspect with other residents in your community that people that have been home since March do not.
Yes, well, we don't really have, I don't feel isolated at all. I don't feel the effects of this dreadful COVID virus situation until I go out, of course, when I need to go out for errands. But here we are allowed to mix so long as we wear masks and 6 feet apart and so on. And we do have activities. We have an absolutely marvelous activities director who keeps us busy. And I don't feel any lack of social life anymore, although I can't have my friends over anymore. We still communicate. And when this is over, I'll have everybody over for lunch.
Wonderful. So let's see, what was I going to ask? What about other people involved? Like Gloria, were your kids involved at all in your decision to move? And if yes or no, was it positive or negative regarding?
Were not involved. I informed them that I was moving. I said, I'm moving, I'm selling the house. Two of the children were positive. One sort of missed the old homestead, but that was my choice. And I just told them. I didn't ask them, I told them. We're moving, the time has come, Dad needs the care, and I don't mind being in assisted living. I've been around older people all my life. I used to volunteer and so on, so I'm flexible. And although most of the people here are not as fit as I am, that doesn't mean anything. It's the connections you make with them socially that's important.
Okay, so and did you reach out to any friends and discuss this move with them at all?
Well, I did have lunch with some friends, and they had suggested that it was time to move, knowing what Milt's condition was, my husband's condition. And that was all, but I made the decision myself.
Interesting. Okay, because Milt really he really wasn't able to help you with the decision-making process, was he?
No, I told him. I think at that point, he was glad that we moved because that way he could be with me. Because he was in the board and care home. So this way I told him, I said, we can be together. And there was no issue. And I did, and one thing that's I think important is to consult your attorney and your financial advisor before you move to see, what needs to be done.
Yes, and yeah, we mentioned that a minute ago. Lisa, family, siblings, anyone else get involved with this decision-making process of the when and the where and the how and the who?
Well, I was primarily the engineer of this whole plan, but it was blessed by my brother and my mom's cousin. They understood that because this really all hangs in the balance on me, that and they could see mom's decline. So it was nice to have my family's blessing on that. I'm also in an age group where many of us have elderly parents, and some of these friends of mine had already gone through the whole downsizing and moving their parents, and I'd heard in detail years of anguish that they had gone through, and also the plus sides of it. So I really talked to my friends to get that extra stamp of, what do you think of this place? What do you think of that? What can I do to make mom feel more comfortable? So, those were the main things. And then maybe one other that's worthwhile to share is mom happened to be friends with the president of the HOA at Somerset. And I was talking to this woman about my fear that, mom might just fall in the closet and nobody would know for weeks, because I wasn't going out to Brentwood every day to see her. And the head of the HOA said that is a very real concern. It happens all the time there. And so, just to have that independent person who is dealing with this in a senior community all the time kind of tell me, yes, that she validated that this was an important move. As much as she would miss her very best friend, she advocated it.
You just touched on something that's really interesting that I do want to have people consider, is that when you move to a Somerset or a Trilogy or a Rossmore or something like that, it may be your one and only downsize move, and that's that. And or it might be an interim move. And I think people need to consider that it's a possibility that living in an independent 55 plus, like your mama was, you're downsizing the size of your home and the upkeep, but you're still alone. There's still nobody cooking for you, cleaning for you. You could still be very socially isolated. Driving, what happens if one or both of you doesn't drive anymore? So that's a really good point that you made. So just to consider, do we want to make one more move and that's it? Or do we want to sort of go and enjoy a more active lifestyle for a while, and then we'll have the time to think about sort of what the next step is? So maybe everyone that's on the call today, kind of put that in the back of your mind and make that part of your plan, your planning process as to what would feel right for you. So Grayla, what about you? I mean, I know you have a ton of friends. I can't imagine you not talking about moving with them. How involved did you allow your friends to be, or obviously you had a husband helping you through the decision-making process, and did your daughter get involved with the decision as well? So
we were actually visiting down here a year ago and actually looked at an over 55 community, very much like Somerset. And as we drove away, we said, I've got one move left in me. This is not it. I want to be someplace, I want to skip that interim. And when we found this apartment, it was 1,400 square feet, and we're coming from a 1,600 square foot house. We did not imagine that was going to be as much throwing out crap as it was. But we had a lot of friends who put a lot of input too, but it was mostly, yes, we think you're making the right decision, because you do visit your daughter so often. You really want to be involved with your grandchildren more. And gee whiz, we hate to have you go, but you will only be 400 miles away. It was easier than when we moved from New York to California, let me tell you that.
yeah, they could drive down and see you, and what a beautiful place to come and visit, right?
And they have a few times.
Aw.
We had a big reunion about a month ago with several friends, so that was fun. But everybody was very supportive, and our daughter was thrilled. The grandchildren were thrilled. A friend of mine moved down recently, and she didn't have as good an experience with the friends saying, "Oh, you're leaving us, how can you leave us?" But my friends didn't react that way. They were very positive.
Aw, that's
And
wonderful.
I think also I had volunteered with Ombudsman and with Caring Hands, and so was involved with a lot of seniors, and I saw those extra steps that were involved.
Right.
And that sometimes they work, like with Lisa, I could tell you, there are so many agencies even to help you look at hard places for your mom. It's just amazing what's out there, and it's free, and people that are so helpful.
That is a good point. Again, I'm going to jump in and say there are people. So there are companies online that you can reach out to that will help you with finding places to move to. However, they may be an 800 number in the Midwest. They may not have even visited some of these communities, or not visited for many months or many years. I would just put in my 2 cents that, you know, call me, use me as a resource, but there are local people that know the nitty-gritty ins and outs of all of these places: assisted living, the skilled nursing, the in-home care homes. They could help you. They'll look at your financial wherewithal, the location you want to be in, the care that you may need now, or that you want to have available to you if you need it in the future. And they can kind of do what Lisa did on her own, which is narrow it down, because there's a ton of great places locally. But maybe there's really only 2, maybe 3 that are really a good fit that you should really go and visit and you know, taste the food or whatever. And by the way, we're talking about people that have moved today, but not everybody moves to an assisted senior community. Some people are moving into, as we call it, granny units in their kids' backyards. Some people are moving to Rossmore. Some people are moving to just a townhome. We've helped people move from their larger home to a 1-level townhome or an elevator condo. So there's all different moves. Some people have moved in with their kids. I've had a couple of people actually move and move up. So they moved out of state, and they built custom huge homes, and like, whatever, life is short. I'm gonna have my home I've always wanted. Lisa, in retrospect, is there anything personally you would have done differently, knowing now what you know now, but you didn't know then, that you could help people understand that are listening in today?
Yes, I would rely on the experts more. I'm very pleased with the research I did, and it was sort of therapeutic for me to go through and make those spreadsheets so that I could get more comfortable with my decisions. But it did put a lot of extra pressure on me, and trying to work at the same time and do all of this on my own was a big deal. So if I had to prioritize on where I would have gotten more help, it would have been with the cleaning of the house. I did go through a lot of extra pain myself unnecessarily. And just to let you know why I even did that is I was feeling guilty about this whole thing and the cost of it. And I thought, why should I pay somebody to do something that I can do myself? But there's a trade-off. When you start putting things on Craigslist or whatever, and people go, okay, well, I can meet you at the house at 9 p.m. So look at that couch. It was just that physically was just more than I should have bared, and could have, I rationalized it like, well, if I save the money there, it'll cover the cost of the move, and that was true. It kind of came out to be a free move at the end of the day, but that was very challenging and hard on me. So I would say that, Dana does have these great resources that I just barely used, and I would recommend people pay for it. It's worth it.
Well, that's awesome. I think the beauty of some of the people that we do have on our extended team is that not only do we have help with packing, with organizing, with estate sales, with estate liquidation. So the things, and helping you decide, what do you want to bring with you? What will you need? What brings you joy? What is going to fit in your new home and what won't fit? Having the measurements done, and then moving and knowing that you have everything that you want to bring with you, but then what do you do with all the stuff that's left? And then working through, are we going to do an auction? So Grayla utilized an auction gallery where they do, the old fashioned auctions. It's an auction house. Gloria used another online auction situation, which is different, but effective. And it kind of depends on what you have. So I guess the idea is, then we go to the donations and the consignment and the hauling, and we have people that can do that. Plus, some of the people we use on our team, they are happy to get paid out of escrow. So you don't have to write a check up front. And I think people should know that, because I think that's a fear that, oh my gosh, we can't afford that. So we're going to attempt to do this ourselves and get rid of 45 years of things that we don't need or want anymore. So we've got that as well. And we've got actually pre-sale financing involved now. So if you wanted help with some of these things, the estate sale or the packing or moving or repairs of the home, and you really just can't afford it, there's no cost, no fees, loans for 6 months. And that can be a very big help as well. So there's solutions to a lot of these challenges. Gloria, if you could share with the people anything that you personally might have done differently, or any last minute words of wisdom, what would you share?
I don't think there's anything that I would have done differently. I made the decision fairly quickly, a couple of months. I knew that this is the way it had to be. And the best initial decision was meeting you. And it really was, because you are the expert. You took care of all those details, the downsizes. You introduced me to the placement person. I didn't even know there was such a person, who took me around, and I looked at places and then made the decision. So the decisions were easy. I didn't even meet that much with the construction people and the movers. It was just done, and that's the way I wanted it. When I moved into this apartment that I'm in now, I walked in the door and the downsizers had put everything in place. They put pictures on the walls. They put statues around. They did everything. It was like walking into my own home because, of course, some of the things were familiar. So it was easier than I ever imagined. And I don't think there's anything I would have done differently.
Aw, and that's a really good point too, to have everything set up so that you literally, the movers come and you go out to lunch or see some friends and you show up at your new place and your bed's made and the art is on the wall and everything is in your medicine cabinet and you just have a cup of tea and settle in. So that's awesome. Grayla, words of wisdom or anything you might have done differently now that you know what you know?
I think that what we did was the right decision, the right time. We should have moved before the COVID because when the lockdown started, we were locked down in an apartment that nothing was put away. The hardest thing for me was the fact that you called me one day and said, oh, would you sell, look at the apartment, have somebody look at the apartment off market. And you explained what that meant. And so that was Wednesday evening. And on Thursday morning, somebody came at 9 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, we had an offer way above what we ever thought we would get. And at 5 o'clock, we accepted and then said, oh my gosh, that means we have to get everything organized and out of here. We had something like about, I think, 6 weeks to finalize everything. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And all we had done was, think about what we were going to move. And then all of a sudden it's like, we have to be out of here. They want to move in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was pretty shocking.
Well, and that, that doesn't happen all the time, but of course we ask our sellers, do you want to sell this off market? Is that comfortable for you? Or do you want to be on market and allow the supply and demand and the most amount of eyeballs? And you kind of have to weigh those two things. And of course we have a strategy to make sure that people are getting a good price if they're going to do it off market. But you chose because there's most amount of money, time on the market, and stress. Least amount of stress, least amount of time on the market, most amount of money. You typically don't get all three. And I know when you chose, yes, we want to have this done fast. Once you made that decision, yeah, we had an offer in a day, less than 24 hours. And you're right. Then it was like, okay,
less than 24 hours.
Yeah, we got to get to work now. We have no choice.
But we sat there and said, this is saving us so much. We don't have to stage. We don't have to paint. We don't have to get the boxes out of here. We don't have to do anything. It's all taken care of. And plus, since we were moving so quickly, we'd found an apartment, I think 3 or 4 days before that. So it's like, oh, let's just go straight to the apartment and not do anything else.
Yeah, the stars aligned.
Decisions were made that I look at it now and saying it was just absolutely incredible the way it worked. But again, I say because we chose Dana Wilson. What can I say?
I get at it. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you so much. And we will talk more in the coming year about more in detail of the psychology about the liquidation, the letting go of things, of change. We'll get more nitty gritty into the details of how we do this and in what stages and who we use. But really, you're all in that last, we talk a lot, or I share a lot about there's easy steps to a successful move. And that last step is embracing and enjoying your new life or post sale. And I know that Gloria and Grayla are doing that, and Lou, even though we don't have his handsome face on screen today. And I'm sure that Lisa, you are sleeping better at night, knowing that Mama's being taken care of, she's closer, and that's behind you. So I want to just, we've come to the end of our time, but I want to see if there's any questions. Let's see, somebody wanted to know where Grayla was living. Grayla?
Where I was living in Walnut Creek on Sugarberry Lane.
No. But, and where are you living now?
Oh, we're in an apartment, an over 55 community called San Sebastian. It's right outside Laguna Woods Village.
Okay.
We're right off the 5 in El Toro, so we can get anywhere really quickly, including the beach, 14 minutes from the beach.
That's awesome. So I have got, well, somebody is saying they never got to see Gloria's pretty face, and that's because Gloria's laptop doesn't have a camera. So that's the answer to that. We've got some other groupies saying when you move to a very active household or home where you, let's see, it says where you do everything, how do you cope with everything being done for you, and how do you occupy your spare time?
Very easily.
I think these people are worried that they're going to be bored because they won't have anything to do. Do you have an answer to that?
You have more time to do fun things.
Gloria, what about you? Are they going to be bored?
I'm much more active socially, I think, here now, because I'm not living in a house. You know, I'm here and the people are around me, and we laugh and joke, and we have all these activities that go on, and we're allowed to eat in the dining room now, so we eat together. And I have a couple of special friends, and we just get along. And there isn't really, I don't think there's anybody here that I don't enjoy being with. You know, they're really nice people. They're very interesting people. It's just interesting to meet all these people and find out their backgrounds, where they came from. And we're a congenial bunch. We're a bit crazy at times, but you know, that's okay. We can do what we want at this stage of our lives.
Yes.
And we have the freedom to do it because we don't have the burden of the house, the upkeep, and all the other stuff that goes on. So I'm happy here.
Well said, well said. We've got another question about where do you live during the transition out of your home? Well, that's different for everyone. Sometimes, like a lot of my clients, they have to sell their home first before they can buy or move into, let's say, a CCRC, continuing care, retirement community, or life plan community, which typically has a fairly significant buy-in, if you will, anywhere from 400 to 2 million. Some people can move first and they can find their next home like Gloria did. She moved out first, then we did the repairs. We did some touch-up painting. We stripped some wallpaper. We cleaned, we staged, we did all those things, and we didn't have to bother her. She didn't have to have these pesky realtors coming and going and calling to say, can we come see your home at 7 o'clock tonight, when you want to be in your pajamas watching your favorite Netflix movie. But where do you live during the transition? So we can do lots of things contractually, where you could have a longer rent back, you can have a longer escrow. We can negotiate sometimes free rent backs. So there's lots of different options and opportunities. It just sort of depends on where you're moving from, where you're moving to, and then we give you some options on that. And I think one more question was, what does it mean to sell off market? And basically that question was all about, off market means you're not marketing it to the public. You don't have it's not on the multiple listing typically, and it's not going to be on all the 600 websites we have for real estate. It's not going to be seen really by the public. And you know, sometimes that works and sometimes it's not right. So, and we can talk about the pros and cons of that as well. And I'm going to see if there's any other questions that we can answer.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
The off market, the realtor knew Dana represented a lot of sellers. So the other realtor called Dana saying, gee whiz, I have a client. Do you have a seller? And so she was able to match it. But Dana's reputation as being representing sellers was extremely helpful for that.
That's very sweet. Yes. So I work with, the majority of the people I work with are home sellers. They're selling their home. And kind of as a fun little aside before we hang up for the day is I'm going to have a new buyer's agent this coming year, and he happens to be my brother, who was a dentist for 20 years, and before that, a police officer. So I look forward to introducing you all to my new buyer's agent. He will be helping with the buyers. I just sort of lost my train of thought there. What were we talking about? We were wrapping up buyer's agent. You had said something, Grayla, about who I knew. Oh, sellers. Yes. So I do have some agents, and these are even in different brokerages, that call me periodically, fairly regularly, saying, hey, what do you have coming up? What do you have coming up? Because they work primarily with buyers. And if we've had transactions together before, you know, I'm all about a win-win. And if you've had nice, smooth transactions where everybody leaves happy, you want to have that happen again and again. So that's how that happened with that other agent. So with that, I think we'll hang up and we'll end this call for not only the December seminar, but for the year of 2020. And we're still putting on the final details of the seminar topics for 2021. So you can check back by the end of this month. We will definitely have the topics teed up and on and available, savvysenioursliving.com. You can go directly to that, or you can find those different topics to register for. You can register for one at a time, all of them, whatever looks intriguing or interesting. And you can register right through the website. And if you ever have issues, you know, getting on the Zoom, you can call us. We'll help you get teed up on that. And just really call us for any questions you have. We love being a resource for you. So my team and I are here to help you, support you, guide you, act as an advocate. We love what we do, and we love the people we get to work with. So big, huge hug to you, Gloria, you, Grayla, and Lou, you, Lisa, and happy holidays. It's the first time I've said that. Happy holidays, and we will just talk to all of you soon.
Right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dana.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dana.
Have a great
Bye.
day.